Smoak. He is the play-by-play radio broadcast voice of the Dallas Mavericks, involved in many things, sports and broadcasting. Also a Hall of Fame sportscaster Chuck Cooperstein joins us on 365 Sports with Craig and Paul, and I'm David Smoak. Yes, we want to get into college football, but my God, Chuck, we cannot go on too much further at all without the glorious Game 7 in Houston, and what an amazing series this has been.
I mean, really, if it's possible for the action to actually exceed the hype, it has happened in this series. And, even you think about the games in Arlington, like Game 3 in Arlington, where Houston, clearly, they were the better team and they deserved to win. But the Rangers were so close to being in that game and making Houston think about it, just as was the case in Game 2 in Houston, and obviously in Game 6. The final score last night was extremely misleading, given the fact they broke it open in the ninth inning. But we've got history. We got 2019 all over again, where Washington and Houston played in the World Series, and the home team did not win a game in that entire World Series. So certainly from the Rangers standpoint, they're hoping that history repeats itself tonight.
Chuck, to college football now, the biggest story is off the field right now, where Michigan is embroiled in a scandal of videotaping signals, and Big Ten schools are saying that they've got video of Connor Stalions entering the stadium, that they've proven that he's bought tickets to 11 of the 14 other teams. Your thoughts on how the NCAA should handle this and what they may actually be able to do, because they don't really work swiftly?
Well, that's a very good point. They don't work swiftly. And, if it took them 6 years to resolve the Kansas basketball matter in the manner that it did, and there was some incredible reporting on that, which basically said that Bill Self was going to give up coaching in the 2022 NCAA tournament as part of any penalty. And basically the NCAA said no after the IARP did what it was going to do. So there's no power here. They're feckless. They have no teeth. They can't do anything. I mean, Michigan can stretch this out as long as they want to, or certainly until Jim Harbaugh goes back into the NFL, if that's what he wants to do. I don't see anything happening here. I mean, if anything, it'll be the ultimate mild slap on the wrist and let's go on.
Chuck, we were just talking about the amazing USC-Utah game from the other night, and what a win for Kyle Whittingham and company, especially without some of their stars. But what did you make of just USC and the way that game unfolded, but also the big brouhaha post-game about not allowing or not having players speak to the media?
Well, college is supposed to be about learning and growing and handling yourself in an adult manner. And I don't think Lincoln Riley did himself or his players any good by handling that in the manner that he did. As far as the game goes, I mean, it was phenomenal. And Utah is just so tough. They play so hard all the time. Doesn't matter who's playing, not playing. I mean, they are the ultimate next man up team. And, the fact that they're 6-1 in the league, they're 6-1 overall. I mean, they got a great chance to win the Pac-12. In their final year there. I mean, are they the favorites in the Big 12 next year? They may very well be. Kyle Whittingham is just one of the great coaches in the game that very few people speak of, in that vein. He, in a lot of ways, isn't he like Bill Snyder at Kansas State? And Chris Kleiman at Kansas State now is a lot in that regard. Those are teams you don't want to play. Because you know what? They're never going to beat themselves. You have to go beat them. And USC found itself in a really tough situation there. Got behind, made a rally, got a great return from Zachariah Branch to set everything up. But in the end, the bugaboo of USC and Oklahoma before that with Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch, it's just not worked. And it doesn't matter how many different people they brought into the program, the quality of the transfers. Listen, everybody wanted Bear Alexander, right, from Georgia, Texas kid. Bear Alexander made one of the worst plays in the game. It was a horrible play. I mean, and now you don't even get to play in the first half next week because he got called for targeting. Now, I don't know. I would not have called that particular play targeting, But it was a stupid play, an unnecessary play, undisciplined play at the worst possible time. And then Brian Barnes did what he did. And did you have any doubt that the kid was going to kick the field goal for Utah? I didn't. And so, they're kind of getting what they deserve. And now there's all this hullabaloo around Caleb Williams and should he shut it down because they're not going to win the national championship, this, that, and the other. It's just they're a mess. And sometimes I wonder if Lincoln Riley doesn't think that that Norman, Oklahoma, that actually that's pretty good right now. That looks pretty good right about now.
So, Chuck, it's hard enough for me to swallow the missing bowl games. I've kind of now come to the grips that happens now with players who are going to probably be drafted. But shutting down, any thought about shutting him down because they can't win something, that's a taste I can't get out of my mouth.
I'm kind of there with you. You and I were brought up in an era, your parents told you finish what you start. Right? You go through the season, and the season is what the season is. And I understand there are business decisions to be made. And if you're a player like a running back or a linebacker, where in football your lifespan is a lot shorter than it can be at quarterback or receiver or something like that. If you're that player, I can almost see you shutting it down because you may just have X number of snaps. But it's certainly as the leader of the football team to then cut out and basically, call your own number, that doesn't sit well with me. And I'm sure it doesn't sit well with many others.
Yeah, Chuck, I would bet on him not doing that until the bowl game. I mean, that's common practice now. It doesn't seem to me, I'm just maybe putting this on Caleb Williams because I maybe think highly of him, but I just don't think he's that dude that would do that.
I mean, he's kind of an iconoclastic figure, though. I mean, he'll do his thing for sure. I mean, I don't know him well enough to tell you if he's that dude or not. I will say this: he does have a father who likes to run his mouth, and that certainly doesn't help matters.
Chuck, your thoughts on Texas and the news that Quinn Ewers is going to miss a little bit of time? Not exactly sure how long, but Malik Murphy and then, Arch Manning right there waiting in the wings as well. It's been a good year despite that Oklahoma loss, but how do you see the rest of this way going for the Longhorns potentially?
Well, they said Malik Murphy had a great spring. We're about to find out if he's going to have a great fall. He's obviously athletically gifted. But as much as I think we all want to put this on the quarterback, Texas has got some significant injury problems in the secondary right now, which, again, playing in this league is never a good thing. And I think a lot of this is going to come down to Sark. And frankly, not even so much how Malik Murphy plays, but how Sark manages him. And, you look at that game last week, they're up 21-0. They're in total control of the game. And then, Sark calls for the fake field goal when he didn't have to do it. I mean, they're gonna make it. And they're gonna go up 24, and the game's gonna be over. And they missed it, and Houston went down the field and scored, and the game is on. And the game really got on, and to the point where, frankly, Texas ultimately was lucky to win the game. Got a pretty great break from the officials, and it should never come down to that. And I think if there is a knock that I would have on Sark, since he's been there, he's recruited great, he's recruited correctly, and I do think his guys play extremely hard. I do think his second half play calling and how they play in the second half of games is not good, and that's something that's got to change. That's something they've got to be able to figure out in order to better finish games than how they've done that here lately.
Let's go back to what you said about Whittingham, and also you brought up Chris Kleiman, because I saw a tweet you had over the weekend. If you had one of those two that you could choose from, could you lose with either one if you had those two to add to your to become a head coach?
You're telling me to ask among kids? Come on now, really? I mean, really? No, you will not lose. You will not lose. And listen, what? Kyle Whittingham. I think he's the second longest tenured coach now in college football in Division I, behind Kirk Ferentz, frankly, I don't know how he continues to have his job given that offense. But somehow they managed to win a bunch of games, but they're awful. Utah is not awful. I mean, Utah was able to move up in class, into a Power 5 conference and be a great team. And I mean, been to the Rose Bowl twice. May go to the Rose Bowl again this year. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's something bigger in their future, depending on what happens in November. Because let's face it, in the Pac-12, you're going to play any number of games here in November that people are going to pay attention to. It's the best league in the country this year. It really is. And I don't think that anybody really can debate that. And Chris Kleiman, I mean, he really, even more than Whittingham, he reminds me of Bill Snyder, or his teams certainly remind me of the best Bill Snyder teams at Kansas State. They don't make mistakes. They just beat the ever-living hell out of you. And you're looking for the license plate of that Mack truck that just ran over you when you're playing them.
Chuck Cooperstein, again, ESPN broadcast voice of the Mavericks with us on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Chuck, what do you think of Nick Saban navigating, and this is not like a precipitous drop, but the least talented team he's had overall, but continue to find ways to win and coaching around their deficiencies?
Well, I mean, the league isn't very good this year. And to be honest with you, I mean, if we take an even bigger picture, 30,000-foot picture, I mean, who's really good in college football this year? I'm not sure there's anybody who's really good. Anybody that you look at and say, that team's not losing. I mean, I don't see that team. To Saban's credit and to his staff's credit, you know what? They got Jalen Milroe rebuilt. After getting benched the week after the South Florida game, which was just a horrific show. I guess he was benched for the South Florida game. He didn't play in that game, but they were just awful. And then, but how do you figure, like, they play that game they played like against Arkansas last week, and then Arkansas plays a 7-3 game with Mississippi State and loses that game. I mean, I don't know how good the competition is, but I will give them credit, for basically, we talk about Sark struggling in the second half. Well, Alabama figures it out in the second half. They certainly figured it out against Tennessee on Saturday, and they did it against Arkansas as well. They've done it a bunch of times this year, where even against Texas, they were much better in the second half than they were in the first half of that game. So, to their credit, they've been able to get some things done. But I mean, I can see Alabama. I can certainly see Alabama losing to LSU. I can see that game. I mean, I can see them losing to Auburn. Maybe they won't lose to Auburn because Auburn has no offense, but certainly they can lose to Georgia. I mean, this could certainly be a 3 or 4 loss Alabama team. I don't think that's out of the question. The fact that they've gotten to this point with only one loss, the one loss being the Texans. Well, give them credit for that. I mean, they lost to a good team. So, but they're certainly not invincible by any stretch. But I certainly don't look at them as national championship worthy by any stretch.
Chuck, as many people know, you are a proud Florida Gator. Gators have the world's largest outdoor cocktail party coming up against Georgia, one of those teams who's undefeated and number one, but like, how good are they? Are they unbeatable? Probably not. Your thoughts on the Gators, though, and what you've seen with this 5-2 start, win over Tennessee, couple of tough losses, but how are you feeling about the direction of the program right now? Well,
Georgia will still be undefeated after this week, too.
Okay.
There are no illusions here at all. But as far as Florida's program, I think off the field, I think Billy Napier's doing exactly what he was brought in here to do. He's brought order. He's brought a structure and built an infrastructure that looks like a modern college football program. Florida was way, way behind, and it should never have been. But, first Jim McElwain and then, Dan Mullen, and even to a certain degree, Will Muschamp, really over the last 10 years, I mean, they've just not been where they should be, given the history of the program, the state that they're in, the conference that they play in, the recruits that are available to them. Billy's done a terrific. His recruiting class this year. Again, I don't follow recruiting all that much, but all I know is I keep seeing they got like the second best quarterback in the country. They got the third best defensive end in the country. They got the big defensive tackle that can shut people down. I think he's building it the right way. My issue with Billy right now is the stuff that happens really on the field. He wants to be everything. He wants to be the offensive coordinator. He wants to be the quarterback coach. He needs to be the head coach. Florida doesn't have a special teams coordinator. They divide up their special teams. And oftentimes it devolves into absolute chaos, frankly, on the field. And, they had a heck of a win, 2 weeks ago at South Carolina. Frankly, it was a win that probably, at least for a month anyway, got the Wolves off of Billy's back, because they lost that game, and it would have meant the only road win that they would have had in Billy's tenure would have been at A&M last year. That would not have been good. And again, I don't know how good South Carolina is for that. I mean, South Carolina doesn't play much defense, but Florida's offense it's not the offense that people have come to expect from Florida. It's not explosive at all. It's a dink and dunk from Graham Mertz, who then, when he had to make a play against South Carolina, did make a play, did get the ball down the field. They have good receivers. They have good runners. There's just not a lot of imagination in the offense at all. And, so to get that, try to get that figured out. I think the Austin Armstrong hiring, the young defensive coordinator, I think he's going to be good. I think he is good. I think that he's got some aggression in that unit that wasn't there last year. But they're still very, very much a work in progress. No one is going to confuse them with the Urban Meyer Gators of 2008.
Chuck, are you okay with them just letting Graham Mertz wear 15 like that when they got the statue right outside? I was kind of surprised that number's not retired.
Well, Florida doesn't retire numbers. Okay. I mean, they've you got guys wearing 11, Spurrier's number. You got guys wearing 7, Danny Werfel's number. So, I mean, you just expect it. That's just the way it is.
Chuck, back to Game 7 tonight, Astros and Rangers. You've done and broadcast many games over the years, and I'm sure I've attended Game 7s even as a fan or covering a game. Is there one that's more memorable to you than any others?
Well, my favorite Game 7 was the Mavericks in San Antonio as a broadcaster in 2006, when the Mavericks built a 20-point lead, blew the lead, looked like they were going to lose, and then Dirk, with 20 seconds to go, got fouled by Manu Ginobili on a 3-point play, tied the game. The Mavericks won in overtime, and obviously went on to the finals. I mean, the wave of emotion in that building, from absolute despair to absolute ecstasy, and then to complete devastation when the Mavericks won. There's nothing like it. I mean, it is. It's do or die. You're in or you're out. As a fan, my favorite Game 7 was Willis Reed's Game 7 as a kid in 1970, when the Knicks won the NBA championship against the Lakers. But Game 7s are cool. I mean, it's all on the line. I'm really interested to see just how well Max Scherzer handles this tonight. He obviously wasn't very good in Game 3, but they need him to be good tonight. I don't know they need him to be great, but they need to be able, I think, to get 5 innings out of him. And if they can do that, then you can bring Jordan Montgomery into the game at that point, because this is a bullpen day for him, and go try to win the game that way, and try to keep your bullpen as far away from the action as possible, because I don't know about you, my blood pressure is just totally through the roof when Nathan Eovaldi got pulled last night for Josh Sborz. And Sborz has been great. He's been really, really, really good in the postseason. But when Eovaldi's thrown like that and he gets taken out on a soft dinker by Altuve, to me that's just right. I'm going to ride or die with that guy until he tells me he can't go anymore.
Yeah,
but that's not baseball today. But it's an all hands on deck night for everybody, and I can't wait to see who's going to be a hero. Because somebody's going to be a hero tonight. I
just don't know if I emotionally can go to another series if they win tonight. I guess I'll have to find a way to get myself in fan shape, because it's been so long. But That's just me watching the Rangers for years.
But right, but it's interesting. Like when the Mavericks a couple of years ago when they beat Phoenix in the second round, and then you're going on to play Golden State. I mean, they're the Warriors. They were obviously they weren't good the year before, but they're still they got that rep. But it felt like so much was already accomplished by beating Phoenix and the rivalry that existed in that series and winning Game 7 the way they won Game 7. It was almost like what happened afterward didn't matter, and yet it obviously matters because those games are even more important.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Coop, thank you as always, buddy. Great to have you on the show whenever we can. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
Chuck Cooperstein, voice of the Dallas Mavericks with us, known him for years. Great broadcaster. Appreciate his time on 365.